Ginger! Ginger, we have a whole section on ginger. Ginger is believed to strengthen the spleen and stomach and the pancreas, enhancing the digestive fire in Chinese medical thought. Hey everyone, welcome to Ancient Life Hacks. I'm Jared Madsen. I have a master's degree in Chinese medicine. I lived in China for many years. I'm fluent in Chinese. And today we will be talking about ginger. So why are we talking about ginger? Well, in traditional Chinese cuisine, there are 3 ingredients that you will find at least one in virtually every dish, if not all 3. And those are, in Chinese, cong, jiang, suan. So that's scallions, ginger, and garlic. So today we will be only talking about ginger. I have other videos that are about scallions and garlic. I encourage you to check those out. But today is ginger. So what we're going to do is we will do a deep dive into how Chinese medicine looks at ginger. So not just a basic understanding, but a much deeper understanding of what ginger is, the medicinal effects that it has on the body. We will also do a dive into Western herbology. We'll see some of the similarities and some of the differences that it has with Chinese medicine. Then we will dive into how do we use ginger, not just for eating, but are there other uses? Ginger has so many benefits. We're going to dive into all those. We'll give you some specific recipes that you can use, some tricks of the trade, and then at the very end, just for fun, just to do something wacky, we're gonna look at folk uses of ginger in both the East and the West. And so you can decide if those are useful or not. Since we're doing a deep dive, we're going to take this book. This is an official textbook used by many schools for Chinese herbology. So we're going to read from this book. If you want to purchase this book, I will leave a link in the description below. I would highly recommend it. What we are going to do is take a look at ginger. Ginger, we have a whole section on ginger. Right now we're talking about fresh ginger. Now, there are other uses of, say, the ginger skin. We're talking about the whole root of ginger. There is also uses of dried ginger in Chinese medicine, but usually in cooking, we use fresh ginger. Most of the time we use fresh ginger. If you're using powdered ginger instead of fresh ginger, that would be more of the dry ginger. It has similar properties, but a little bit different. We can dive into that. Fresh ginger. The properties are acrid and warm. Okay, so acrid is pungent, that's the flavor, and warm means the effect that it has on the body. So that means that it is warming to the body. Whether you eat it cold, room temperature, or hot, that is the effect that it has on the body. It warms the body. Okay, we will get into just a minute here what these mean and how this plays out in ginger. The meridians that it enters, the channels, are the lung, spleen, and stomach, which basically means most of the effect of ginger will be either on the lung, breathing, right? Or the spleen, stomach. Sometimes that would also include the pancreas. So the digestive system really is what we're talking about. There are several actions and indications. And you want to know what? We're going to read all of them because today we are getting a full understanding of ginger. The first releases the exterior and disperses cold for exterior cold patterns. You might be saying to yourself, hey Jared, what on earth does that mean? Don't worry, I'm going to explain. In Chinese medicine, there is the concept of 6 pathogens, or 6 evils, if you want an even more direct translation. And what that is there are six of these things, 6 pathogens outside of us that are trying to get in and trying to get us. And we need to not let them get in. So one of these is cold. Cold is considered to be a pathogen, an evil, this thing that you don't want to come into your body and to hurt you. And so often in the West we'll say, I caught a cold. It's kind of the exact same concept, right? You caught a cold. It is cold. Cold has entered your body. There's some cross-cultural happiness for us right there, except colds aren't very nice. And then here it also says the exterior. So what that means is that Chinese medicine looks at levels of bodies. An easy way to think about it, without going too deep, is basically like something very superficial, and then it goes deeper, say into the organs, maybe the outside, deeper into the organs. There's all different levels, but the exterior generally means something that you contracted from the outside and has just entered into your body. We call that the exterior. Sometimes it's considered just under the skin. That's a cold that has not gone much deeper, has not transformed into something like bronchitis or gone even deeper into the organs. This is just a simple, maybe you got the sniffles, something like that. That is what we would call cold. The cold enters the body on the back of wind. Wind is another one of these pathogens. So wind is just the wind blowing around, and then cold rides it and enters the body. How does it enter your body? Well, if your pores are open, if you're sweating, it can go in that way. If it's really cold out and it's windy and you breathe that wind cold in, it can enter into your body that way. That's how traditionally they considered that we got colds. Nowadays, we talk about bacteria and viruses, but traditionally in the West as well, don't go out when it's really windy and cold because you'll catch a cold. Kind of the exact same advice. So getting back to ginger helps to expel that. Now, again, this is just kind of stuff that's right on the surface, something that maybe you just started to get a cold, something like that. It helps expel that, or even pre-cold, right? Boost your immunity, just kind of push that stuff away as it's trying to enter in. We're just pushing it away. We'll get into that later. We'll go a little deeper. Okay, the next thing, warms the middle burner. I'll explain what middle burner is, and alleviates vomiting for cold in the stomach, especially when there is vomiting. Let me go back real quick because I promised you to explain the acrid, pungent flavor and the warming flavor. So one of the things that an acrid, pungent flavor will do is that it will release the exterior, which basically means it opens your pores and pushes the bad stuff out. Like, so if you just start to get a cold or whatever, that's that wind cold, that exterior, that pungent nature helps push it out. So it's not just ginger. It could be anything with a pungent nature, but especially ginger. And then the other property is warming, right? So we talked about getting a cold. So obviously the way to counter cold is with warmth. So that's where the acrid, pungent flavor comes into play, and the warmth of ginger comes into play to release the exterior, especially with this wind cold. Then we go on to the second one where it says warms the middle burner and alleviates vomiting for cold in the stomach. Okay, so the middle burner is a very simple concept. You have upper, middle, and lower. It's the organs of your body, and so the upper is going to be like your lungs and your heart, and then the middle will be basically your digestive system, including your liver as well, but predominantly your stomach and your spleen, your pancreas, and then the lower burner is the intestines and the organs. So it goes a little bit deeper than just a classification system, but for our use, middle burner just translates to your digestive system. That's what we're talking about. And so it helps remove cold from the stomach. And cold in the stomach will give us pains in the stomach. It can, it can make you vomit like we have here. So ginger is very good at warming the digestive system. It's one of the best. Disperses cold and stops coughing. For coughing due to both acute wind cold, we talked about wind cold, cough patterns, and chronic lung disorders with phlegm. Sounds complicated, but we kind of explained it already. It's this wind cold entering the body. Lungs are one of the channels that it enters, right? We talked about that. So this warming, pushing out property that ginger has, it can help you with a cough, right? And even potentially long-term phlegm in the stomach. Okay, these are some of the uses of ginger. Right, next one, reduces the toxicity of other herbs. We're getting into it now. We're getting into actual herbology now for detoxifying or treating overdoses of other herbs. Okay, so I won't list the herbs that's talking about. We don't need that. But you can have the concept that it deals with toxicity of some herbs and that it also deals with, get ready, toxicity of seafood. If you're eating raw seafood especially, which I highly would not recommend that because there's a lot of toxicities that can be cooked off when you cook it, right? But if you eat it raw, but even when you cook it, sometimes there can be some problems with seafood. And so that is why in virtually every, if not every single Chinese dish that has any form of seafood, whether it's fish or shrimp or, snails or anything like that, anything from the ocean, any animal, I should say, from the ocean, ginger is virtually always used. It is a preventive, proactive measure. We're not diving deep into herbology here. We're not today anyway. So you don't have to worry about that with other herbs, but seafood. Highly recommend. And if you think about it, say in Japan and you go and you have sushi, or you go to a Japanese restaurant, you have sushi, what do they give with that? They virtually always give those little thin pink slices, like soaked slices of ginger. That's ginger, if you didn't know what that is. It is exactly because of that. If you are going to be going all out and eating raw seafood, which again, I wouldn't recommend, no matter how tasty it may be, but if you're going to do that, absolutely eat those little pink pieces of ginger. Eat the whole thing and ask for more because that will do its best to prevent seafood poisoning. Now, nothing's 100%, but it should, the idea is that it will help as much as it can. But the best way to not get seafood poisoning is to not eat raw seafood. So that's kind of on you. Even if you eat the ginger and you get a little seafood poisoning, kind of on you. Last but not least, adjusts the nutritive and protective qi for patients suffering from exterior deficiency who sweat without an improvement in their condition. Okay, that kind of gets into some deep stuff. You don't need to worry about that. It's basically just this imbalance. If you're dealing with a serious imbalance in sweating and stuff, go see a practitioner of Chinese medicine. Don't mess with that yourself. Just real briefly, before we move on, there's a few things that you can combine with ginger. So one is dazao, which are just red dates, and this is a common thing. This is good for a wind cold as well. We'll get into some of these later, but those two combined together will help to strengthen the spleen and alleviate nausea, and they can also help with this wind cold. So you would boil those together. Okay, I promised to mention the dried ginger. It just is even more warming. That's kind of the difference. It is not as strong in the removal of toxicity and clearing the exterior, but it is stronger in warming. So generally you want to use fresh ginger. We kind of only use dried ginger in certain herbal formulas, and honestly, most herbal formulas still just use fresh ginger. A lot of Chinese herbal formulas use fresh ginger, so it's not just for cooking. It is an actual herbal formulas. But if that's all you have, if you have some of that powdered ginger, you can't get the fresh stuff for whatever reason. Everything that we're doing here, it's kind of the same thing. It's not as good, but you can use that. That is Chinese medicine. That is our understanding of ginger. Okay, now we want to dive in. I hope you stuck with me through this. We're going to get into the meat of stuff. Now, if you say to yourself, Jared, this is too much for me. I just want to know some recipes. Well, you want to know what? You can just skip ahead in the video, but I think you're going to be missing some key stuff because what we really want to do is understand what ginger is and how it's used. And then the actual recipes will all make sense. But if you say, you know what, I don't care. Well, I can't stop you. You can go ahead and skip ahead and the recipes are at the end. Or if you say, hey, I want to know how to get rid of ghosts with ginger. I've got a problem with ghosts. Well, then you can skip way to the end because we're not gonna talk about that until the very end. Cold and flu relief. So again, the two main things that ginger deal with are colds, especially very superficial colds that you just got, a little bit of the sniffles, things like that, and digestion. So ginger's warming properties help in balancing the body's internal temperature, combating the cold energy that traditional Chinese medicine associates with illness. It's often used in herbal teas or broths, we'll get to that later in the video, combined with other ingredients like scallions and honey to treat colds and the flu possibly. It can induce sweating, which is considered a way of expelling pathogens in the body. The whole idea is that it's not only warming you, it is also pushing those pathogens out. And it does that by opening the pores. So one important thing to mention here, if you feel like you're getting a little bit of sniffles and you want to take one of these recipes that we're gonna have later on, I would highly recommend that you get in your pajamas, right? You do this at home, you get in your pajamas, and then after you take this drink or whatever it is, that whichever recipe you're gonna use, that you then go into the bed, you go under the covers, and because you're gonna sweat. Now, the problem is, if you sweat, according to Chinese medicine, that is either that opens you to the outside, which in this case, we want to push stuff out, stuff that's already entered in. So we want to open it so that we can push that out. So we need that sweating to happen. But you can also have bad stuff enter in because the doors are open now. Your body is open now. And so that is sometimes why you would get a cold in the first place. If you're running around in shorts in the middle of winter and sweating up a storm and then you get a cold, you got no one to blame but yourself. The wind is taking the cold and it is entering straight into your pores, and then it goes to the exterior, as we call it. So you definitely, if you're trying to get rid of a cold, get in your pajamas, get under the covers, especially if you start sweating. Right, that's a big one. The next big one is as a digestive aid. Ginger is believed to strengthen the spleen and stomach and the pancreas, enhancing the digestive fire in Chinese medical thought. So I will explain that very briefly. The stomach, in Chinese medicine, you can think of it as the pot on the stove. And the spleen, pancreas, that is the fire. Okay, so it very much, they think of it like that. So you can just imagine you're boiling a soup, right? If you throw in some cold water or some ice or something like that, it's gonna just kind of, the whole thing is just stops, and then it's gonna take forever for the fire to get it boiling again. And especially too, if your fire, so in this scenario, the fire is your spleen, pancreas. If your spleen and pancreas are weak, that's gonna have just a little fire, right? So it's almost like your fire is set to low, the knob is broken, right? Or you only got like one little piece of wood, right? However you want to think of it. And so if you dump a bunch of stuff into your stomach, into the pot, and it stops the boiling, right? It's going to take forever for it to get going again. And so that's why sometimes you feel like maybe if you eat a lot or you eat stuff that's not right and the food just kind of sits in your gut and you know, it doesn't really seem to digest, doesn't process. That is a problem with your spleen, pancreas, your fire. And ginger adds a little fuel to that fire. So that's why ginger is kind of good all the time. Like anytime you eat, not all the time, but anytime you're eating, just simply from that point of view, it helps that spleen fire, because no matter what, it takes energy to digest the food. So you might as well make it as easy on your body as possible. That is why we use ginger. It helps with that. Another way is just the way that you eat foods, right? How you prepare foods, I should say, right? So for instance, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I'm huge into soups and stews and things like that, because it's very easy for your body to digest and then absorb those energies and nutrients, okay? So as a digestive aid, consumed as tea in cooking, or even a fresh slice. Yes, or you can even take, you can get some of that pickled Japanese ginger. It's particularly effective in treating indigestion, bloating, and gas. It's also renowned for its ability to alleviate nausea and vomiting, including morning sickness. Morning sickness, you know what? Let's do a whole other video. Let's not dive into that now. It is a circulation booster. Now, it's mostly for respiratory things and for digestion, but the pungent components of ginger stimulate blood flow, which is essential in Chinese medicine for the movement of qi and prevention of stasis. It's just kind of a side benefit, I would say. Right? So this can be used. We'll see this. It's actually good to know this because we're going to see this later in some of the topical uses of ginger. So ginger can be used both internally and topically as compress for circulation issues. We'll see some specific ways of how we can do that. It's beneficial in treating conditions like arthritis, characterized by qi stagnation and blood stasis, and in relieving menstrual pain through improved circulations. We're going to dive into that very soon, right after we get this full concept. Okay, now we will go back into respiratory health. So we talked about that a little bit with the wind cold, right? With catching a cold. Ginger's warming effect is believed to benefit the lung meridian, helping clear phlegm and congestion. Ginger tea or inhalation of ginger steam, right? That's a good one. We can do that right now, right? You just put it, and then as it's boiling, you just breathe that in, right? You put a piece of ginger in some water, and you breathe that in. That's great. Are common methods of use. It is useful for treating coughs, including those that arise from colds, and can soothe sore throats due to its anti-inflammatory properties, right? So, respiratory health, digestion, the beginnings of colds, some coughing, right? We're starting to get the picture. This pungent acrid pushing things up and out, and the warming properties of ginger, its ability to enter the lung meridian, the spleen, stomach, pancreas, those meridians, these are key to remember. I am not an expert in Western herbology, but we're going to do a little bit of a dive into what Western herbology says before we dive into some specific uses of ginger. I think we're going to see that it's probably quite similar. They might have some different uses of it, though. Let's take a look. Similar to its use in Chinese medicine, ginger is well known in Western herbalism for its ability to aid digestion. There we go. Okay, they discovered that as well. It's used to treat upset stomachs and nausea, including morning sickness. That sounds like the exact same thing as Chinese medicine. We're one for one. Ginger is valued for its anti-inflammatory properties, making it a popular remedy for inflammatory conditions such as arthritis. Okay, kind of the same thing. Very good. We're agreeing 2 for 2. Ginger is believed to stimulate blood flow, making it beneficial for improved circulation. This property is also why it's sometimes used in the treatment of cold extremities in poor circulation. So Chinese medicine talks about that a little. We mentioned that a little bit. It looks like Western herbology is more into circulation with ginger, and maybe if you have cold hands and feet. Chinese medicine doesn't talk about that so much. They have other things for cold hands and feet, but there you go. It has been used to treat colds, flu, and respiratory conditions. Ginger is considered an immune-boosting herb due to its antiviral and antibacterial properties. It is often used in herbal formulations to prevent and treat colds and flu. You want to know what? It sounds like the East and the West agree what ginger is used for. Now, the time that everyone's been waiting for, how do we use it? Okay, before we get into eating ginger and cooking with ginger, we're going to first go into some topical uses of ginger. So, we kind of mentioned it before, apply a warm compress made with ginger-infused water, which all that means is you boil some ginger in water, right? To affected areas to reduce pain and inflammation. How much ginger? If you're just boiling it and putting it on, the more the better. I don't see how you could use too much. So we're not talking about drinking it right now. We're just talking about, as you know, you boil some of the water, you put maybe a cloth in or something like that, and then you put it on certain areas of your body that don't feel so well. Here's something. Soaking in a bath with ginger can help alleviate muscle soreness and improved circulation. Okay, so now we're getting into it. If you do not have a bathtub, or you do not have the means to boil enough ginger water to put in your bathtub, you want to know what an easy solution is that you just boil some ginger and then you put it in some sort of basin or something like that, and you wait for it to cool off. Don't use it when it's too hot, but use it when it's warm. And then you just take a rag, right? And you can wipe your whole body down with that. That is very good for you.
I wash myself with a rag on a stick.
I would highly recommend that. That's good for muscle soreness, and that's just good for because all those warm properties of ginger on the surface of your skin, it will get your blood moving, circulation. It's really good. Now, one thing in particular that has been popular recently, so we're going to dive into this, is not just the body, but in particular for the hair. So washing your hair in ginger water. So basically water that had ginger boiling in it, and then it cools down a bit, enough to put on your hair anyway. If you can get blood to flow to your hair more, I think that's probably good. That's just kind of the idea. It reduces dandruff, apparently. It can strengthen the hair as it is rich in minerals and essential oils. Ginger can strengthen the hair from the root to the tip. It helps in preventing hair loss and can make hair more manageable and resilient. So that sounds like a good thing to do once a week. Wash your hair in some ginger water, right? Just make sure it's not too hot, because you want to boil it first to really get all the properties of the ginger into the water. Ginger can also act as a natural conditioner, leaving the hair smooth and shiny. It has moisturizing properties that can help keep the hair soft. Here is the basic preparation. Boil a few slices of ginger. I'd say the more the better, that's if you ask me. In water for 10 to 15 minutes, sounds about right. Let the water cool down to a comfortable temperature. That's important for sure. After shampooing, rinse the hair with ginger water. Massage the scalp gently for a few minutes. This can be done 1 to 2 times a week. So the key is you don't wash your hair after you use the ginger, right? The ginger is at the end so that kind of stays in your hair and is stimulating, right? Because if you just wash your hair with it and then you took some shampoo on, then you'd wash all the magical ginger powers out. Ginger and scallion tea for colds. So now we are getting into how you use ginger in your diet. 2 to 3 inches of fresh ginger, slightly thinned. 3 to 4 scallions, green onions, okay? White parts only. Now we're getting into it. 4 cups of water, honey to taste. You can put a little honey in. If you say, you want to know what, ginger and scallion water is a little too intense for me, I need some honey. It still doesn't sound great, but maybe it's a little better. In a pot, bring the water to boil, add the ginger slices and scallion whites, reduce the heat and simmer for 15 to 20 minutes. Strain into cups, add honey if desired. Drink warm, especially at the onset of cold symptoms. This tea is particularly effective in expelling cold and warming the body, making it ideal for early stages of cold, particularly those with chilliness and no sweating. Which brings me back to, if you're going to do this, and this is quite effective, if you're going to do this, be sure that you put your nice extra warm pajamas on, get your onesie out, whatever you need, right? You could even put on a stocking cap and socks and gloves if you want to go all the way, right? You drink this, and then you just go right into bed, right? So this is actually a good thing to drink right before bed, right? Like have it at your bed and drink it and just like right in the covers, so that right when you start sweating, it will push all that out and you don't have as high of a chance of bad stuff coming in. And two, like if you have a drafty house or a cold house, get that fixed. I'm telling you, you're just asking to get a cold if that's the case. All right, here is another one. This is really nice. Ginger congee for digestion. You might say to yourself, Jared, what on earth is congee? Well, it's basically porridge made with rice. So 1 cup of rice, 6 cups of water, or if you want to be even more pro, put some chicken broth in, some bone broth, that's nice. 1 to 2 inches fresh ginger, grated or finely chopped. Or you can put a little bit more ginger in, right? The more the better, not too much, but put a little salt if you want. And then you can, you're making a congee, right? You're making overcooked rice. We'll put it another way. That's what congee is. So, you can have that with food. You can put anything you want, right? Like here it has boiled chicken, green onions, vegetables. Yeah, you put anything with it, or you can just eat it straight, just like that. A little intense to eat it straight. Not intense, just no flavor, right? Not a whole lot of flavor. I guess it has ginger flavor. Rinse the rice and drain. Combine rice, water, broth, and ginger in a large pot. Bring to boil, then reduce to a low simmer. Cook, stirring occasionally until the rice is very soft and the congee has a thick, creamy consistency. Here it says about 1 to 2 hours. You don't have to do it for that long, but that is great if you do. Add salt add salt, or just eat it with something else, right? Because just adding salt isn't going to do a whole lot. But the main thing is that you want 2 to 3 times, if not more, if you want it real soupy, more water than you would usually use to make rice. Basically all you're doing is making rice. And you want to know what? You could do this same thing and just make rice. Now it's better if it's real soupy and congee-like, but if you make rice how you normally make rice and you put some ginger in with it, that's great. You want to know what? That's great all the time, maybe, right? We usually use it in the dishes, but if you go, hey, I like ginger rice, people might think it's a little weird, but I think it's not a bad idea. Ginger congee is gentle on the stomach and excellent for improving digestion and relieving nausea or stomach discomfort. It's also good if you just feel that you don't have a very strong digestion in general. We talked about the stomach being the pot on the stove and the spleen, pancreas being the fire. If you feel like you just don't digest things well, or if you gain weight really easily, even if you're eating kind of okay, you're not eating a lot of bad stuff, you still gain weight, or some people they feel like I gain weight by drinking water. You probably have a digestive system, according to Chinese medicine, that's not functioning as well as it could. And therefore, eating congee, white rice congee with ginger and maybe a little bone broth, I think that would be really, really good for you. You do that for a while, you have one of those a day. In a week or two, you might be feeling great. It's worth a try. Ginger honey syrup for a cough. Okay, 1 cup fresh ginger, 1 cup. That's intense. I like it. Finely chopped or grated, 1 cup honey. Wow. Could we use a 1/2 cup ginger and a 1/2 cup honey? I think so. Could we use a tablespoon of ginger, a tablespoon of honey? I think so as well. And 2 cups of water. Well, then you need to reduce the water as well. In a saucepan, combine ginger and water. Bring to a boil. Then simmer for about 30 minutes to reduce the mixture by half. Strain out the ginger, then mix the remaining liquid with the honey. Store in a jar in the refrigerator. Or eat it, right? Take a tablespoon of syrup as needed for cough or sore throat. Okay, so that's just a great sore throat remedy, cough remedy. A lot of times we talk about using honey already. This is just honey infused with ginger. Sounds wonderful. You want to know what? It sounds like it's actually probably pretty good just to eat, and it sounds tasty. This syrup combines the soothing effects of honey with the warming properties of ginger, making it especially beneficial for coughs and sore throats. All right, the last recipe, ginger chicken soup. You want to know what? All these recipes sound really, really easy to make, yet they are quite effective and highly beneficial. So you're welcome for that. 1 whole chicken cut into pieces. Oh, this is sounding more complicated. I guess I spoke too soon. 6 cups of water, 1 to 2 inches of fresh ginger, salt and pepper to taste, optional, green onions, scallions, right? Other vegetables. It's pretty straightforward, right? You're just making some broth. In a large pot, add chicken and water. Bring to a boil. In a large pot, add chicken and water. Bring to a boil and skim off any foam. Add ginger slices and reduce heat. Simmer for 1 to 2 hours. Serve with salt and pepper and optional ingredients if desired. Serve hot. You want to know what? If you don't want to do the whole chicken and you go, hey, Jared, can I just buy one of those boxes of bone broth? Yeah, just do that. And just boil some ginger in that. That's real easy. This soup is nourishing, and the addition of ginger helps in boosting immunity, warming the body, and aiding in the recovery from colds and flu. So we have a few different things here that can be used for both digestion and recovering from colds and flu. Whichever one sounds like what you want to do, then pick that one. There's no one better than the other. They're all good. All right. Now that we thoroughly know how to use ginger, and we have the wisdom of the ancient Chinese and how they use ginger, what they use ginger for. And we have some Western herbology. And we have some good recipes. We could stop here. And you can stop watching here if you want. I'm okay with that. But if you do stop, you're going to miss all the folklore and traditional uses. Okay, let's dive in. Seasickness. Ginger has long been a trusted remedy among sailors for combating seasickness. That makes sense. It's a digestion thing, right? Your stomach's all getting messed up. The pungent root is known for its effectiveness in easing nausea and vomiting, which are common symptoms experienced at sea. Yes, they are. Sailors would often chew raw ginger. Okay, good for you. Or consume it in the form of candies or tea. Ooh, candies. That sounds good, but not... Oh, you want to know what? Candies, if it's made with honey. Now we're talking, right? Ginger-infused beverages were also a staple on long voyages, not only as a remedy, but as a preventive measure against motion sickness. You want to know what? This folk remedy, I think there's something to it. I was prepared to laugh at this stuff. Looks like the joke's on me, because this is probably a really good idea. Wow, next time I get a boat, I'm going to bring some ginger with me. You want to know what? That's a great idea. I'm going to definitely try that. Oh, here we go. Ginger. Attracting love and wealth. In various Western folk traditions, ginger was believed to possess the power to attract love and prosperity. This belief likely stems from ginger's strong and enticing aroma, as well as its vibrant and fiery nature. Okay, I don't see that. I mean, it does have that, but I don't see how that attracts love and wealth. So here's how you do it. The practice involved carrying a piece of ginger, often in a pocket or pouch, as a charm to draw romantic interest or financial success towards the individual. As long as nobody knows you're walking around with ginger in your pocket, I mean, it can't hurt, right? It can't hurt. The warmth and energy of ginger symbolized passion and abundance, making it a flavored ingredient in spells related to love and wealth. Well, okay. I guess I didn't bring my ginger. I got to put some in my pocket and just walk around with it. Oh, warding off negative energy. Ginger's spicy and potent nature was believed to repel negative energy and evil forces. In various cultures, it was used in rituals to cleanse spaces and protect individuals from harm. Ginger was. Okay, we've heard about garlic. That's another episode, but ginger as well. Okay, maybe I should hang some ginger around here. Due to its wide variety of medicinal benefits, ginger was commonly used in healing rituals. Okay, that makes sense. It was believed to restore balance and vitality and to aid in physical and spiritual healing. Okay, sure. And here's how it was used. Ginger might be burned as incense Never heard of that. Interesting. Carried as an amulet. Hey, back to carrying a piece of ginger in the pocket. Or used in baths and washes in these. Well, we already talked about how it's very good to use in a bath. So whether that's a ritual use or not, hey, if it gets rid of negative energy, even better, right? Enhancing potency in potions and spells. You want to know what does that in Chinese medicine? Ginger was often included in magical potions and spells. I like where this is going. Believed to amplify the effects of other ingredients. Its dynamic energy was thought to accelerate the manifestation of the spell's intention. So I guess what we learned is wash your hair with ginger, carry it around in your pocket, and maybe it'll get rid of bad things and people might love you. If that's all it takes, I'm definitely putting ginger in everywhere I can. In Chinese culture, ginger is not just a culinary staple, but also a symbol of prosperity, vitality, and strength. Its vigorous growth and strong flavor are seen as embodying these qualities. Okay, so a little different than the West in the thinking there. There are folk tales where ginger plays a role in bringing good fortune, money, or restoring health, reflecting its status as a beneficial and powerful plant. Ginger is often used in traditional Chinese festivals and ceremonies, both as a food ingredient, we talked about that, and as a symbol of good health and fortune. For instance, during the Chinese New Year, dishes containing ginger are commonly served as they are believed to bring a healthy and prosperous year ahead. In some stories, ginger is associated with longevity and the elixir of life due to its health-promoting properties in Chinese medicine. That would be in combination with other things. That's usually what it's talking about here. Warding off evil spirits. Similar to other cultures, in some Chinese folklore, ginger is believed to have the power to ward off evil spirits or negative energies, owing to its strong and pungent nature. This is Chinese culture now. Carrying a piece of ginger, they carry ginger too, or having it in the home is thought to bring good luck and ward off bad omens. Well, you want to know what? If the Chinese say it and says it in the West, then it must be true, because these two cultures that didn't have contact with each other for a long time are both saying, hey, ginger brings good luck and ward off bad spirits. Maybe there's something to it. Ginger features in various Chinese myths and legends, sometimes as a magical herb with special powers, or as a favored food of deities, of gods, and mythical creatures. In Chinese literature, ginger is often symbolized to represent warmth, passion, and the zest of life. Okay, if you made it this far, you are a trooper, and now you should thoroughly understand ginger and its uses. Now, one thing occurred to me that I maybe didn't mention earlier on, so this will be a secret thing for those of you who stuck with it to the end. We talked a little bit about how ginger is used with seafood and things like that, but you want to know what? Ginger is used in so many culinary dishes in China. It is very, very frequently used. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If you can have ginger in some form, whether it be cooked into your dish or as a tea or something like that, at every meal, since it has such a strong property in helping the fire of the spleen stomach, helping the digestion, and also too the power to kind of boost your immunity, we could maybe say. Is that okay to say, right? Like kind of has that pungent, acrid, pushing things away. It seems like it's probably a good idea to have it every meal. And I think that's no matter whether you're trying to have better digestion, or if you feel you have the sniffles or you don't want to get the sniffles, ginger is the root for you. Now, before we leave, you might be saying to yourself, hey, Jared, ginger's great and all, but what about coffee? Well, you want to know what? The good people over at Days Coffee, Days Coffee has the Ancient Life Hack seal of approval, and I'm going to tell you why. Because they use this 50 enzyme complex to naturally remove caffeine from the coffee. So this coffee, which tastes amazing, by the way, has only 15% of the caffeine that you would find in regular coffee. And they do that not by many decaf coffees will use chemicals or something like that to get rid of the caffeine. They use it with this special natural enzyme complex process. So if you are looking at having a nice, beautiful cup of coffee, you can check out in the description below. I have a link to them here. And if you say, Jared, I want to get 15% off anything I buy at Days, I say, well, you want to know what? You're in luck, because you can use the code, the Ancient Life Hack code, ALH15, to get yourself 15% off your entire order. All right, so that is it for me. I hope that you guys go back, have some ginger, and benefit from the magical properties of ginger. All right, see everyone next week.